Welcome, everybody, to the Digital Nomad Experts podcast by Commute. Today, we're going to talk about the Digital Nomad Demographics Unveiled, the latest studies that we've pulled together from various sources on 5 different categories. We're going to talk about the number of digital nomads. So we're going to break down trends, growth trends with digital nomads worldwide and in the US. We're going to talk about who they are, add some demographic information. We're going to talk about their education levels. We're going to talk about salary and jobs that they're working, happiness levels, how much money they're making, all that kind of stuff. And then the top places where they go. So this is really fun because this is the latest and greatest information that we've got out there, the latest studies on digital nomads, everything that we're doing. So we're going to report back on those statistics, and we're going to try to do a little bit of sanity checking as well. Some of these we scratched our heads. We're a little bit like, all right, maybe we're missing something. Maybe there's a few just hiding out there that we didn't know about. So yeah, we're going to give you what we got and then our commentary on that. And we hope that we're really excited about this episode. We really hope that you enjoy it and get some insight out of it. So before we do that, just Jeff and Marissa here today. Marissa, how are you doing?
I am good. I'm excited for this episode because I feel like so many people in our emails or write to us or write in and ask, like, am I too old to be a digital nomad? Am I too young to be a digital nomad? Am I educated enough to be a digital nomad? Do I have enough experience? So this episode will really cover all of this so you can understand like who are the people who are living it, who have done it. And I think with anything, these are just average numbers. Anyone can live this lifestyle, but I am excited just to sort of share because we haven't really done this before of who are these nomads. And there's a lot more than I thought actually in terms of just like sheer numbers. So I'm excited. More. Yeah, but anything with you before we jump in?
No, still in the States. I'm full recharge mode. I'm loving it. The only thing, I was just talking to our friend Lisa in South Africa, and she said there's a Offspring and Green Day concert next year in January. And that's the only thing that's really jumped out at me as a plan. So I don't think that I'm going to wait 9 months before I travel again. But it's the only thing where I'm like, okay, this is one of those, we talked about this before, having like an event to go to.
Yeah.
As part of your travel.
Like and making that a staple sort of part of your, like planning around that. I didn't know you were an Offspring and Green Day fan.
Well, that's my childhood. Oh my God.
I mean, it's mine. Yeah. I feel like it's mine as well, but it's not what I'm traveling for, but I love you are.
You were a little younger. You got a little bit of a gap, but yeah.
I had those CDs. I had an older brother who listened to those. They were playing in my house. But that is so funny. And I love that. We have talked a lot, as you said, about just traveling for whether it's concerts or festivals or whatever that might, some big occasion or something going on in a certain country. So it's cool that that's becoming part of your pillar for next year. And that's a fun way away.
I don't need a big excuse to go to South Africa. I mean, like it's part of me just itches to go back there at any time. It's a perfect winter getaway.
I feel like I'm seeing everybody's pictures there now, and I'm like, I do kind of, like, it's not my favorite place in the world, but it is stunning, and I'm just, I've seen a lot of our friends are there right now posting pictures, and it's so beautiful. It's like, how could you not just find it so pretty? So, well, that's fun, exciting stuff. So, I guess with that then, should we jump right into these demographics and all the stats? Again,
categories. We've got a few statistics under each category, and we'll start with the first category of the number of digital nomads.
Yes.
And the latest number that we've got is there are 34 million digital nomads worldwide. And of the 34 million, 17.3, so just about half are coming from the United States.
Yeah.
34 million.
That seems like so many to me. Like, I was kind of blown away by that number. I guess I never really thought about it. Like, I think qualitatively, you and I talk a lot about, like, there are a lot of digital nomads out there. And I think when people meet us back home, and they're like, you guys are these, we talked about this, I think, on the very last episode, like these rare, elusive unicorn, these beings. They're like, I found one. You're one of those nomads in the wild. And
I've heard of you.
I feel like there's so many of us because that's what we live and breathe. But even living and breathing this and having, met thousands and thousands ourselves, like this number really shocked me. Like that's a lot of digital nomads. So that's pretty cool.
If you look at the United States, what have we, 340 million, some odd like that? Okay. That's 5%. 5% of people. All people.
That's a lot. Yeah.
if anything, it's kind of encouraging because a lot of
Yes.
people write in and feel just frustrated with trying to get digital
Yeah.
nomad jobs and things like that. And it feels like this far off, elusive type of thing. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people are doing this.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
actually,
So
that,
I think it is encouraging.
yeah, that brings us to the last stat in this category, and we want to know growth trends. Like, is this going up, down, sideways? It's up 131% since 2019. It really, like, if you look at the chart, maybe we can send that out on social or something like that. But like, you can really see that pronounced spike after the pandemic around 2020.
Yeah, everyone was like, oh, I literally can do my job remotely, and don't tell me I can't because I did it.
Yeah, exactly. They had a taste of it, and they're like, "Oh, fuck
Yeah.
no, I'm not going back. This is too
Yeah.
good. Why? Why would I
Yeah.
sit on a bus for 2 hours a day, or a train, or my car, or any device to move me into a cubicle
Yes.
and back from a cubicle?" Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people just had a taste of it and didn't come back. I will say it's kind of leveled off a little bit. Looking at
Yeah.
that chart, it was like over the last year, 2023 to estimated 2024. I don't have it in front of me, but it only went up by a few percent. So it's like, I think
Yeah.
it's going to do this thing where it just, progress never goes like in a perfect,
Right.
L-shaped curve.
Linear, right.
But I think because we did see like a little bit of a pullback. We talked about companies pulling back,
Yeah.
trying to hold on to their last shred
A
of
lot of companies,
control.
I feel like last year and a half, like did the return to office or more of a hybrid model, just finding ways to make people not travel. But the trend that you're talking about does check out with me qualitatively, and talking to people I know and friends. Like a lot of the people I think got permission during the pandemic, and then like they couldn't make them go back immediately because people's lives had sort of changed. But it was like, okay, in the next 6 months or in the next 12 months, like everyone's coming back. So it makes sense that it would kind of like slow down a little bit some as people are still searching for more. But I do believe that like, if we fast forwarded 20, 30 years, that it's just going to be such a larger percentage of the workforce, because people realizing they can. It's like you can work in an office, or you can have the freedom to be anywhere in the world at any time. And I know there's so many people I talk to who, some people do like an office, like to go in, like to have that steady routine, don't mind living in one place. I'm not saying everyone in the world wants it, but I think so many people realize they can, and that they're going to demand it more, is my kind of prediction for the future.
I think that's an easy bet. I wouldn't bet against that.
Can we like short this on a stock market somehow? How do we invest in this, Jeff?
Yeah, I want to go long on digital nomad.
Yeah. Perfect.
DNJD, ticker symbol. Go long on that.
Yeah, so that does talk about, that kind of covers just the number of nomads. We really wanted to start there to say like how many nomads are there? Is it growing? Where are they? And kind of speaking of where are they, we're going to go into who are these 34 million digital nomads? Like, where are they from? How old? Male, female, or gender? Just like that sort of thing. So, Jeff, you want to kick it off and talk about like what are the top countries where digital nomads are coming from?
I'll just limit it to the top like 5 or 6 or so. So United States comes in way, way, way higher than everything else. Number one, with 46% of all digital nomads. Doesn't shock me at all. I
do wonder why more countries haven't somewhat caught up. Like, it's a huge, huge, huge gap. It's like 46% of nomads, it's saying, are from the US, and the next one, which you'll talk about, is 7%. Like, that's a huge gap. It's not like there's even close followers. So somehow digital nomads we're trending, and we trendsetters in the US. But that one actually really surprises me that it's that big of a gap between number 1 and 2.
I can only make guesses. Yeah, I don't know, but it's huge because number 2 comes in at 7% with United Kingdom.
Yeah,
and that also checks out too. I see a lot of
friends from the UK,
a lot of Brits, traveling, and then 5% from Russia. Maybe a little bit of a surprise. I don't meet a ton of Russian travelers.
I know not as many.
Couple here and there for sure. Canada also 5%. Yeah,
checks out.
think that would be a little higher even maybe, but yeah. And then Germany at 4%. Yeah. No surprise to see Germany in the top 5.
We have a lot of German nomad friends.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, this list really makes a lot of sense. I'm pulling up our listener demographics while I'm at it. So all time, We've got United States at 71%.
Right.
Canada, 4%, UK,
Right.
3%, Australia, 3%, and then Germany,
Right.
2%. So there's only one that's swapped
And
out.
Australia's
That's Australia.
number like 7 or 8
and
on this
Russia.
list here. And France
Yeah.
is right below Germany on this list as well, which also I know a lot of French nomads as well that I've traveled with. So yeah, it does sort of check out here, which is good to see. Yeah, the quantitative data we're seeing checks out qualitatively, I think, with what we know. So with that, so those are the countries that most nomads are coming from. And I want to reiterate, I know I said this a little bit at the beginning, if you're listening to this, let's say you're from not one of these countries, or you're not the average statistic as we talk about these, it doesn't mean you can't live as a digital nomad, right? Like you can be that small, the 1% or the 2%, or you can be the upward trend of your country or of an age group or whatever it is. So if you're not one of these average numbers or countries or places, definitely still pursue it. We're just trying to share the sort of lay of the land of what it currently looks like, just if you're interested.
If we've seen anything, it's that nobody fits the mold. I mean, everyone's
Yes.
just the oddballs, more oddballs in the digital nomad community than any other. Yeah,
Just
yeah.
the
That's what we love
community of
about it.
misfits, the community of oddballs.
Really
So if you're
is.
the oddball in your community, chances
Yeah.
are you're meant to live as a digital nomad. I feel like I just want to like point blank stop the episode there. That's really all you need to know.
The
but it's
land of
sort fun
misfit
to see.
toys. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. But yeah, we have friends. I mean, again, those were the top 5, 6, but we have nomad friends from I think
Everywhere.
even Wi-Fi Tribe. There's 62 different nationalities within, members of Wi-Fi Tribe and our friends. So yeah, lots more. So with that, age-wise, a lot of people ask this question. So 47% of digital nomads are in that 30 to 39 age category. So that's the biggest, in your 30s, I would say that's the biggest chunk.
Still just barely in there. All right.
You're still making it.
I got a
Jeff,
few
just
months
there.
left in that category.
Is it almost your 40th? This is going to be 40 for you?
This year will be 40, yeah.
Oh my gosh, December, right? So you got a whole year, but wow, I didn't really
Yep.
realize that. I feel like
I
whenever
know,
I
aging
meet
gracefully.
someone, whatever age I meet you at, you're stuck there. And I feel like we met, I want to say you were 35 or 36 when we met.
35, I think. Yeah.
I don't know. So in my mind, you're always that age, even though it's been so many years. So that's wow.
Yeah, I'm
but-
always shocked when somebody tells me an age that doesn't match up with when I met them.
Yeah, I'm like,
Wait,
excuse me?
what?
How's
I
that
haven't been
possible?
aging.
I know. I haven't aged a day since you met me, Jeff. So, yeah. But anyway, we do find, I will say that is most, I didn't know if that was just because we were that age when we started. And so that's who, naturally you typically kind of find people within your sort of age demographic. I love this one because, as I mentioned in the beginning, so many people write into us and say, am I too young? Am I too old? And so 47% we found of digital nomads are in that 30 to 39-year-old category, which checks out. And part of it, I was wondering, that's definitely the experience that I've had, but I didn't know if that was just because we're in our 30s and maybe that's why we're attracting, it seems like the majority of people are the people
Yeah.
we meet, because you kind of tend to relate to people your own age. But actually, one thing I love about nomad life is I think age is less important when you meet people. It's more about the mindset. And I have some great friends who I've met who were in their early 20s when I met them, or who in their late 40s or 50s, and it's just as fun to have those experiences. So call it about half are in their 30s, which is kind of more than I thought. I would think it would be a little more into their 40s, because we do see a lot in the 40s as well. But I guess it's saying 39% are over 40, which, yeah, feels about right. And then 14% are in their 20s. So
I thought it'd be more. I thought there'd be
More of
more in
which?
their 20s.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is kind of surprising. That it wouldn't just be people straight out of college living this life, but it does
Yeah.
seem to be. I wonder if in the future, if you fast forward 10 years, more people will be in their 20s living this lifestyle, because it's just more a more well-known option. But I guess what I found is a lot of people whether it's graduating high school or college, which we'll talk about education in a second, and enter the workforce just thinking this is the life I'm supposed to live, this is the path, this is what you do. And then it's sort of, you go through those years and you're like, wait a second, this kind of sucks. Why am
Yeah.
I locked in this place? How can I get out? And it's sort of, once people are a little more established, I feel like they then find digital nomad life and start pursuing it, which is surprising. It seems like it would be more of you're young, you're out of college, you're backpacker, you don't care where you are, you don't care as much about whatever, but I don't know. That's my hunch, I guess.
I think that's probably right. I think there's not a whole lot of college guidance counselors out there saying you should go be a digital nomad, as opposed to going into an office and building up like some seniority. I think that's still kind of the default. It's like, this is just what you do. You just go into an office and you start building up your career. And then after that, once you hit, I don't know, like, 4 or 5 years in that, you're 28, something like that. You go, oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe I'm going to join that for 14%. And then you're in your 30s.
Yeah. And then you're in your 30s. So
then you're in your 30s. Yeah, exactly.
So that feels right. And then in terms of gender, it was hard to find some exact information. There was a lot of different statistics out here. We saw anywhere from 52 to 61% male. So it's funny, as at first we were seeing like 61% male, and I think you were saying, Jeff, like that hasn't been our experience. I feel like it's usually evenly split, or if anything, tends to feel like more females sometimes. I think definitely in the digital nomad communities that you'll find of like co-living or different events, it tends to be more female in my experience. And I'm wondering if that's like a safety thing of just females feeling like they need to kind of be in that community. But I would say overall, my experience has been about 50-50. It's not like super, I don't know, it doesn't feel very skewed one way or the other to me, just in my personal experience. What about you?
It feels like in the last year of, just reflecting on the last year of travel, it feels like it's skewed so female. Like in the last few trips I've been on, it's been, I'd say 75 to 80% female.
Of people who you've kind of been with.
Yeah, the groups that like, and just like adjacent people that are in groups that I don't know. It just seems like it's skewing very heavily female. Yeah. That's it. Like we talked about before this podcast, I'm not interacting with solo travelers a lot. None of us really are. We kind of travel as groups. So there has to be a huge contingent of male solo travelers out there that are not doing the community style digital nomad experience. So that's probably got to be adding up to that. What is it? Like, 52 to 61%. Depends on where you read. Nomad List says 52%. Looking at our listener, our audience all time, 48.2%
of male.
Of male, of male. Yeah, exactly.
So it checks out. I feel like it's somewhere in the 50-50-ish range.
Yeah.
We'll call it there. So that's good to know.
So we don't have great statistics. It's like your experience is going to vary. Experiences will vary pretty dramatically based on the way that you live out your digital nomad lifestyle.
But I will say, just speaking from a female traveler, that it feels very safe to do it, so it's not like only the males can do it, and it's not safe if you're a female traveler. Like, definitely if you're female and you're considering it, highly recommend it. So that's the split there. In terms of, this was interesting to me and way higher than I thought. So this is speaking for Americans, but 24% of American digital nomads travel with children. So this was also a way shocking. This is where I think you and I have self-selected and aren't experiencing this.
100%.
100%. Because I was like, whoa, this number is high. And this is one, the same way I sort of talked about maybe like age self-selection a little bit. You'll tend to, when I do meet digital nomad families, like, I feel like it opens up a world of, like, they're with all the other digital nomad families. And, like, we're over here, like, not traveling as digital nomad families at the moment yet. So I love this one because it's like, to see a quarter of American nomads are traveling with their family, with kids. That's pretty awesome. And I know it is on our to-do list to get someone on this podcast who travels with their kids, because so many of you have asked about it. So many of you have kids. So for now, just know that it is absolutely possible. We will get you some more information on just like logistically how that feels, what that looks like. But I think it's awesome. Like, I hope to travel with kids one day in some sort of way. I think it's like the best education you can get, but it's such a cool thing. So anyway, just know that there are families living as digital nomads.
Okay, next one on the list is 1% of digital nomads identify as transgender or non-gender affirming, which is actually dead on with our listeners. So that doesn't surprise me at all, actually.
Yeah, it is a low number. And I think about even, we didn't find a specific statistics like that talks about in the LGBTQ family, things like that, but it definitely is a smaller percentage. Like, we have a lot of friends, I would say, probably over-indexing for the community, I would guess. in this category, but it's always really interesting to me to talk to people who are, gay or bi or this, and their experience. I would say there's a lot more bi than just like gay, lesbian, but I know it makes a big difference traveling, and often those people will look to find communities within the broader nomad community, and it's sometimes hard to find fellow nomad travelers in that way. And then adding on top of that, I know it's important to understand like where you're traveling to, what people feel comfortable, how outwardly you can be yourself in those situations, depending on the country and how open they are to this sort of thing compared to where you might be from home. So yeah, it definitely is more of a minority, I think, for those reasons. But again, absolutely possible. I have a lot of friends in the community who do travel in this way, but it's just interesting to look at as to see who are these nomads. Yeah.
And then the last statistic on our list here is 54% of digital nomads are married or living with a partner.
Yeah.
Let me see. Maybe not. Maybe doesn't quite align with what I've seen.
But I wonder if that's self-selection as well.
Could be.
I think that's the kind of thing too, where like when we first started, we were just like single nomad travelers and met all of our single nomad traveler friends. And that's kind of like who our community became. But there's a lot of people who like we travel in partners, even if we're not like married. But if it had said 54% married, that would feel like a lot. But I also think like people who are married and living as digital nomads don't seek out the communities that we did when we first got started because they have each other. And it's like you can just, I think when you have a partner like that and you go and explore, you still miss the community if you don't have it, but it's easier to go for years because you have each other always and you can just kind of like go on your own. So I think we might not be meeting the married people as often. But a lot of our nomad friends have gotten married since and are somewhat nomading still, or I do think they exist for sure. So it is a higher number than I would have expected.
So that brings us, we know who they are. Now let's talk about their education. Another big question that gets asked. Yeah. One of the most common questions, I'd say.
Especially as it relates to the job search.
Yeah, especially
and what we help with. Yeah, so people write into us a lot and say, like, do I need a master's degree to be a nomad? Do I need this certain level of experience to live as a nomad? So I'm going to list off real quickly just like the percentage that have each sort of like education level. And again, take this with a grain of salt to say there's plenty of people. I have a lot of nomad friends who have, no college degree and
self-taught,
have awesome experiences, make more money than the people who have like serious degrees. So anyway, I just want to preface with that. But okay, so 54% of digital nomads have a bachelor's degree, so your typical kind of like 4-year college degree. 10% have only a high school diploma. 33% have a master's degree. I know that was higher than you thought that would be. And 3%, only 3 have a PhD, which kind of checks out to me too. I feel like those people.
I know one PhD. Oh wait, yeah, maybe one PhD.
I know one off the top of my head, and I'm like, maybe there's 2. Yeah, I feel the same. So that works. Yeah. That checks out.
That's dead on.
Anything else on here surprise you?
Where's associate's degree? I don't think they included that statistic.
Yeah, they don't have that one, but. Yeah,
maybe it's associates are higher for bachelors. But no, this makes sense to me. I mean, I know people in all most of the people I know are bachelor's degree and then ended up doing something different from what their bachelor's degree is. Like 90% of people I know. I also know a lot of self-taught people. Like first thing that comes to mind is like software engineer, developer, right? Like they just taught themselves like to do that. Nobody gives a shit if you have a degree. That's it's not gonna help you. And so that would fit into the high school diploma. Master's degree, I guess that's the only one that really jumps out at me.
That was more than we thought it would be.
Though I don't walk around asking my friends what degrees they have. I don't even know what degree you have. Do you have a degree?
I did just like college degree. I never did a master's or anything like that. I know. I was like, wait, do you? I think I do know your background, but I kind of love that about nomad life. We're like, I think in so many other circles and social situations, like in the States especially, or wherever, people are so apt to say, like, you know, like, where did you go to school and what degree do you have? And it's like they judge you on that.
I hate that conversation.
It's the worst. It's so unnecessary.
So
and I
elitist.
love that about, yes, I think nomad life is so not elitist to the point where, like,
God, yeah.
maybe I know from my friends only because I've talked to them about, like, who are your friends? What were you doing at this age? Like, I can kind of piece it together, but not because I ever specifically said, like, what degree do you have? Like, where did you go to school? So I love that. But I also want to say, I think a lot of this just, like, none of it is causation. Like, it's not like because you have a master's degree, you're more likely to be a nomad or anything like that. It just kind of like, I feel like statistically, this is kind of like how it's happened. But I think, like, we've seen with any jobs, you don't need any certain degree to, like, become a digital nomad by any stretch of the imagination. And I actually think, like, the more creative, cool careers, like people who are just doing what they love and, like, living a more purpose-filled life, or a life that they actually love, are the people who have, like, less education, like, you know, aren't doing their master's, aren't doing their PhD. This is not at all statistics. This is not factual. This is, like, Marissa's opinion, but I think it almost, like, takes you out of the box of, like, what you were supposed to do and supposed to study and the life you were supposed to live, and just, you're like, okay, cool, like, I'm just gonna find something random that I like to do and find a way to travel, and you keep kind of navigating life. So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. Yeah, a lot of people that go to school get kind of locked into a certain way that you're supposed to live and the way you're supposed to be, for better or worse. But, like, in certain instances, I see some people that just kind of like, I'm going to do my own thing and just live kind of a more of, like, a free kind of, like, more open type of lifestyle. So no, I could totally see that.
Yeah.
So it is available to anybody, and like Marissa said, the numbers just show it might lean that direction just because that's how it ended up, and that's just maybe a lot of people coming out of, like, marketing in college or so. I don't know, you know, however it ended up. And actually, we've got some data on jobs coming up next. Let's
that's good transition in. So out of education into the types of salaries and jobs that these, 34 million digital nomads are doing, which is still blowing my mind. So Jeff, talk to us give us some stats here.
So the average digital nomad earns between $50,000 and $123,000, which is the range.
That does check out. Yeah, that checks out to me.
And I've seen way wider than that. Like some folks making, you know, very, very way under 50,000.
Yeah.
Also depends on where you're coming from, your home country. You're earning in your local dollars. Like some people in, you know, less affluent areas will be making less, probably proportionate to where they're living. Fine, but, like, you know, in U.S. dollars, way less than that. I've also seen people earn way more than that. I mean,
for sure.
The scale is the entire scale. You will see anything in between.
That's why this was the average number, not like the minimum and maximum, right? So I think this is kind of where the average chunk is. It's a pretty big range, but like you said, we've seen less. You can get by on less. There's people who make way more and everything in between. But that 50K to 123 feels pretty solid of, like, just the average kind of person doing an average kind of 9 to 5-ish job while traveling.
Yeah, it's a good sanity check. It actually makes sense. But like Marissa just said, you don't have to make $50,000 at the bare minimum to do this. We did an episode where you can live places that you can live for $2,000 or less per month. Yeah, and that's very, very doable. So theoretically, you could live as a full-time digital nomad for around $25,000 a year. If you
depending
bounce
on the
around these awesome places. So
yeah,
it's very doable.
Yeah.
Do you want to bring us to the next statistic?
Yeah, the next one is this is just kind of an average hourly rate. So for someone who might be doing more freelance work, the average hourly rate for digital nomad is $10 to $30 per hour, and that's just for a variety of different jobs. So that feels about right. I know you can definitely make more per hour if you're doing, like, depending on how niche you are, different coaching stuff. There's a lot you can do, but that's just for some kind of hourly jobs, maybe just getting started. I would say that's more probably for a beginner nomad. And then that one, we also want to talk about the highest earning digital nomad jobs. We actually did a whole episode on this recently.
Talked about that.
We did, but some quick ones. This one said software development, graphic design, and IT, which differs a little bit than I think what you and I felt was more accurate within our community, but it's not far off. Like those are possible, but I would say graphic design usually isn't the highest earning, but definitely software developers, some IT roles, and then we talked a lot about some other marketing, other like there's other ones that definitely earn more as well.
Mm-hmm. Next statistic comes from a study that just came out recently, and it's based on happiness. 80% of digital nomads say that they are happy with their work, as opposed to 59% of people with traditional jobs, not travel, not digital nomad jobs.
I think that's
who are
huge.
happy. That's huge. I mean,
difference. That basically just shows like you
59%.
could be doing the exact same job, but if you're living as a digital nomad, you just have a higher quality of life and therefore are happier. Yeah. That's my takeaway from that. So if you're listening, I feel like that's the only statistic you need to know in this episode is like you will be happier when you have the freedom to live and be anywhere you want. And I always tell people that could mean you might stay at your home in the same country you live in now, but having the freedom, or maybe you want to pop around to travel some, but it just shows like, to me, when you have that freedom in your life, like just the drastic change in the way you view your relationships, your job, your happiness of everything else, it just sort of spills over.
Next one is 82% of digital nomads report that they are satisfied or very satisfied with their income levels versus 69% for workers who are not digital nomads.
Yeah.
So while the range, as we just discussed, is pretty wide, in general, people are happier with the amount of money that they're making as opposed to folks. And maybe there's a little bit of bleed over with happiness with their overall life. And they're like, okay, so I'm getting travel and I'm getting this pay. Now I'm just generally kind of happier. So there's probably a little bit of crossover there, I would imagine.
I think 100% you're right. And I would also maybe add to that is like when you, let's say you're making the same amount of money. Let's say you're making 80K. Let's just pretend you're living in New York or San Francisco or most cities in the US these days versus living in Thailand or somewhere in South America or somewhere else that has a lower like cost of living. You feel like you're making a lot more. So like, I mean, you just, your money goes a lot further. So essentially you're making more money.
Yeah,
in the
you're getting a
grand scheme
raise.
Of things. Yeah. So I wonder too, if it feels, you're like, okay, my income's fine because I'm getting more versus being stretched thin every month in whatever city you might. I think it's probably kind of a combination of those two.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So that's everything with kind of salary and jobs we wanted to cover. And then lastly is just kind of talking about where do digital nomads go? So I thought this was interesting, and it definitely checked out the stat we saw that the top 3 countries that digital nomads are spending the most time in, and somehow we've never talked about this. I feel like we talk a lot about where we like to go, where like the best starter locations, the most common locations, but Mexico, Thailand, and Germany, that one sort of surprised me, are supposedly where the most number of digital nomads are sort of spending time at any given time. Does that feel accurate to you?
Mexico and Thailand, 100%. Yeah. Germany?
That one surprised me.
I don't think I've ever talked to a digital nomad that's like, oh yeah, I'm jazzed. I'm going to Germany. I'm going to Hamburg for a month.
I feel like a lot of people, there's a lot of Europeans who like to spend time in Berlin. Like, I feel like maybe it's a certain subset of people who are just
some
sort of like...
Oktoberfesters and...
I don't know. But that one was surprising. But we'll take it. We'll see. So, but yeah, Mexico and Thailand. I would have guessed Mexico, Thailand, and maybe like Indonesia for Bali or something like that. But
that would have kind of checked out. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Colombia, something like that.
For sure. And then the last quick little stat here, we just kind of threw it in with this. I thought it was an interesting one because a lot of people always ask us, like, what do people do with their homes? Like, are they, like, do you sell their homes? Are they renting it out? So 49%, so basically call it 50% of digital nomads do not own a home. So more just like living freely, but that means 50% do, which is pretty wild. And that means, maybe they rent it out when they're gone. Maybe they don't. Maybe they pop around a month here and there. But I think that was a really important one because a lot of people ask us that question of like, what do I do with my house? Like, do I keep it? Do I sell it? Do I have it? What are other people doing? And we really see a combination of some people who, have a home or keep a place and travel, or who just let everything go and roam freely in the world. So That was a lot of numbers. I feel like that's up your alley, Jeff. Like all your statistics, percentages,
this made
numbers.
me so happy.
This is like a lot for my brain. I'm like, that was too many numbers for my brain to even begin to keep track of.
Oh, I want more. I was looking at this list. I'm like, oh no, route. Shoot.
That is so funny. So numbers and statistics like Jeff, and hopefully you loved this episode. For me, I'm more of a qualitative person, so this one was a little hard for me, but maybe if you want to listen to it again or you pulled the stats that stuck with you. But overall, I would say we really hope you take away that like this is the run-of-the-mill, the average of the 34 million digital nomads, but there's all sorts of outliers. Anyone can do it. You can absolutely do it. And yeah, anyone can. So with that, if you don't yet have a remote job and you want to be traveling the world, check out beachcommute.com/nomad jobs, where we'll send you 5 companies that are hiring right now that have active job listings. And that's a super exciting thing. You'll get on our email list and get more kind of remote job alerts as we send them out. Anything else, Jeff, as we wrap up the statistics, any information anyone needs to know?
Nope, that's it for me. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you again next week.